Welcome back to WRPL, the podcast where we talk about all the things we were watching, reading, playing, and listening to. My name's Ben.
And I'm Steve.
I love how fake that was, because I can tell you're a beaten, tired man who's being dragged to the podcast table to talk about things you really didn't even have time to watch.
Pretty much, yeah. That sums it up. But I'm happy to. I've been a tired, beaten man for a long, long time,
And you will be for
and
much longer.
and yeah, even more so. So I'm happy to trudge through the lands of Mordor with you here, Ben.
I'm glad to be here. All right. Well, I mean, we have the main thing we're going to talk about is the Flash. I saw some other things. Maybe I'll talk about them. Maybe I won't. I know some of the things are things you want to watch, so I'm not going to get into it. But I'll talk about the things that maybe you aren't going to watch.
Okay.
All right. Let's roll.
That hit the wire, so I don't know if that counts, but it's an 8.
Okay.
So not off the strong side.
Can't see it.
4? Yep, 14.
Oh, 14.
14, yeah.
Okay. All right.
But yours did hit the wire, so that's why yours is higher, I think.
Well, we're combined lower score than last week, and last week was a pretty good episode, so maybe we can.
I have a feeling the back half of this episode, at least, will be good.
Signs to come of Steve's opinion on a certain thing. Since I have more stuff, I'll talk about something real quick. I read a book called Flu. After I finished the
FLU?
FLU. Flu. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
you said FLEU.
No, maybe it just sounded like that. FLU.
Yes, FLU, the sickness. I just wanted something after reading 3 fantasy books to read a horror book, and I wanted something that was going to be disturbing, but a lot of the really messed up horror books, you can't tell by the cover, you can't tell by the title. Some of the most innocuous things can become absolute gut wrenching, and some of them have really cool really cool concepts, and they don't live up to it. So I just rolled the die. I typed in horror in my audiobook app, and a bunch of shit came up. And of course, it's like, this is number 17 in the series. Like, I'm not looking to get into anything like that. And this one had a picture of a zombie, and I was like, cool. It's like 8 hours long. It's got a zombie on it.
That's all it took. Okay.
That's all it took. And it's kind of bland. There's not a lot of characters, which is fine, and they all do seem to be interconnected, even if some of their stories, like, they don't actually meet in the book. They're connected in smaller ways. I think this is something that could be an interesting miniseries if you flesh out some of these characters, because it just felt like we didn't spend a lot of time in certain spots. It would be, we got to go get some food, open the door, and then I killed a zombie. And then the next chapter could be like, after getting back, we were A-okay. Like, some of the action and the thing you love the most about zombies is killing zombies. And they kind of hold back on it. Not that it's still relatively descriptive of how gross things could be, but I kind of want a little bit of action sequences in my book, and this is not it. It was fine. There's a second one called Fever, and I don't know if I'm gonna pick it up. I don't think I care enough about these characters, and it takes place in Ireland in the early 2000s. They're pretty basic zombies. The only thing that's a little bit different is they kind of love the sun. It's like they're always kind of walking after the sun. Something about the heat that's like they walk into fire, almost craving it, and also their skin and all the sweat and mucus and everything, it kind of seeps out of them and creates almost like a protective shield, like it hardens a bit. But then they don't do anything with it. Like, I had a hammer and I was bashing this one in the face and I couldn't break through that layer, and the zombie just kept coming after me. No, it just kind of mentions it. Like, oh, well, why do they make their weird zombie sounds? None of their organs work. Oh, it's still because everybody had the flu and they got sick. They're trying to clear their lungs of whatever blockage. And it's like, okay, would they really actually do that if they're not breathing, if they're not functioning in any way? So I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of opportunities and they just don't do anything with it. So that's a pass for me.
I apologize. When you said you read it, this was audiobook form,
Yes.
correct, though? Now, do you know if this was like a major release thing or if this was just an indie book that?
That I don't know.
Okay,
I did not do any any sort of research on this
okay,
guy. Does he have a bunch of books? I just saw it got like 3.5 to 4 on Goodreads, but it seems like everything on Goodreads is 4 to 5. Everything's someone's favorite thing.
sure.
So yeah, it's fine. Spend some time, and they also do they find a little girl, and she has was quarantined with her sick family, and they're all dead now, but she never got sick. Oh, she's the cure. We gotta save the little girl with the cure. Um,
Just play The Last of Us.
yeah, I know. And when did Last of Us come out? The first one?
2013.
Okay, I think this was like 2008, 2010. So maybe someone stole some ideas. No, it's a pretty basic trope. Oh, the chosen one, the prophecy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, it was fine. There was not even like any sections that seemed. Actually, there's one. So this woman who's being taken care of by this guy, he got bit, starts to turn. Oh no, no, no! I'm sorry. They're just having an argument, and he's getting a little like you're getting too independent. You need to rely on me more. And she shoots him in the neck and it like severs his spine and he dies. But then when he comes back as a zombie, his head is like flopping down. And because of the
Awesome.
dangling, it's able to like swing and like bite her cheek. Like, okay,
That's
that's a cool
cool. Yeah.
visual. And if there's a little bit more of that, I think it could have been fun. But yeah, pass.
All right. Yeah, I've seen some stuff on, I've talked about being on YouTube Shorts and you just go down the wormhole and or whatever, and next thing you know, it's 4 hours later. Like, God damn, I wasted my
Mm-hmm.
day. That being said, occasionally a book recommendation thing will pop up, and I've seen some horror books that at least concept wise sounded cool, and I've never really read horror books.
Mm-hmm.
Except for one that was kind of a horror book, but it was more like a spoof on Scooby Doo.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, I remember you talking about
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. But I haven't read anything scary before, and I'd like to see if I could find something that both conceptually is cool, but also be like, damn, this is like some fucked up stuff.
Yeah, I follow a couple of people who that's all they do is read horror books, and of course, everything they suggest I put in my little app. There's not an audio version available, or it just isn't in the library. So,
Because I think
um,
also there's lots of books that it's just you have the audio version and it's just a dude reading at you. But I feel like horror would be a great thing to have an audiobook for because
yeah,
you could really add in the sound effects and the music to really
yeah,
sell it. I know
they
that's not
don't.
necessarily audiobooks generally don't do that,
Yeah,
but I think horror could be a really cool avenue to take
yeah,
if that option is available.
hmm yeah. Unfortunately, oh yeah. So what I was saying, follow some people, and they were talking about how they had to put a book down because it was just so gut churning and the things that are on the page you can't believe you just read and it affected them and I've never got that from reading
Well, yeah,
something.
because you're a sick bastard.
No, I think these people are very much like me, like they're also sick, but it took them to a place they haven't been to, and that's what I want to happen when it comes to reading.
Hmm, fair enough.
What do you got?
Well, I finished a comic book series that we talked about last week, the week before,
2 weeks ago,
two
yeah.
weeks ago. Uh, I finished Die. You let me borrow book one. I really like the concept, so I was just like, I'll put it on my Amazon wish list, and maybe I'll buy just the hardcover of the complete thing. And so I was at the library, and then they just happened to have the three books, the three volumes that I needed. So, of course, I picked those up and I read them this week. And I know you just
I
finished
finished two.
uh, book two,
Volume two,
volume
it
two,
would be
yes.
books 6 through 10.
Yes. So I won't spoil anything after that because we can talk about issue volume two. Sorry. Uh, I'll just say that in general, I enjoyed the story. The middle section, I was kind of partially lost and seemed a little bit convoluted, but I like the
Mm-hmm.
ideas there. Uh, I think I wasn't so into the characters at the beginning, but by the end, they kind of grew on me. And what it had to say about everything I enjoyed. I think it kind of I really liked the first act. The middle act was I have some issues with, but then the final act I was like, okay, this was a pretty good story. I really liked how it ended. And I look forward to seeing you finish it so we can actually like do a real discussion on it.
Yeah.
But definitely some choices I didn't see coming and how it all sort of weaves together in the grand scheme of things. Definitely big ideas in this.
Yeah, and it's a book that doesn't hold your hand. Time can pass in between panels, and you really have to really pick up what they're talking about. There's one where the lucky character, Chuck, I think,
Chuck, yep.
Chuck, like a Titan shows up and like, well, here I go. And the next panel is just like, I defeated him.
Yep.
Everybody eat his
Big bang
flesh.
boom.
So it is something that I think an adaptation could really help because you don't see as much action
Yeah.
as I would hope. But the thing they were all captured in these little glass containers, and this woman comes out with a mask, and I can't remember her name, but she's telling a story about her and her two sisters and brothers. They created this world, and it.
Yeah, this is the part where I was like, oh, this is a neat idea. And then they kind of expand on that more in later issues.
Huh?
And basically, in the final act, they just kind of like a here's how it all weaves together. They sort of wrap
They
up the
really spell it
entire.
out for
They
you.
really like yeah spell it out for you. So I was like, okay, now that you've done this, I get it. This is
Mm-hmm.
cool. But I was like, what the fuck is happening
Yeah.
exactly with all this? And then so my two biggest issues is I think it needed another couple issues just to sort of like slow down, maybe add in some cool action sequences that you really don't get to see, and sort of make me enjoy these characters a little bit more because I feel like it just goes so fast. Because 20 issues, it just
Yeah.
blows by, and it really just jumps you right in. And then it's just like this is the world we live in, but we're not going to explain anything. It's just because we're making references to our previous campaign and we're
Mm-hmm.
introducing characters from that campaign who you have no idea who it is. And it's
Yep.
like,
You just.
okay, so here's this guy who you had a relationship with. I don't know anything about him other than you had a relationship, but then there's big consequences because of your relationship with this person. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what this means by him or her being here.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Like Ash's, her son shows up and's like, "Oh, hi, mom," and it's like, "What? She got pregnant at like 17, almost 18," and then they were talking about someone was a surrogate and took the baby out of her, and it was like a love triangle with one of her teammates.
yeah,
It's.
their flashbacks can be like 2 or 3 panels,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just kind of, and sometimes not even dialogue.
Yeah.
It's just here's kind of a quick little visual of what happened. It's like here's them meeting, here's them kissing, here's that them leaving that person with like baby in hand. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that's the panels that
Yeah.
happen, but it's just so fast. Um, yeah.
I would, if this does get adapted, I would like to see the guys who created American Gods take this
Okay.
because it has a very unique visual style, a lot of jumping back and forth between different stories and timelines, given because American Gods has a lot of crazy, kooky characters that get fleshed out in the books, but it would be harder to do visually. But they handle them all really well. I think they would have the proper eye and being able to juggle a lot of little mini stories in the bigger thing. So I bet they may be difficult to work with since they walked off the show after one season. So who knows? But they're my pick.
I don't have a pick yet, but let me
Yeah,
sit on it and
think on it.
I'll get back to you.
I'll probably cut this, but if you were casting it, would you want them to be like the actors that play him in the real world? Do you want them to still play their in the game versions? Because someone like Ash is a different gender.
Yeah.
So do
Well,
you recast all of them? It's completely different. This is exactly how I wanted to view myself in this game. So I'm not going to look exactly like myself.
I think yeah, you keep the actors in the outside world. I think you do a thing where you try and dress them down and make them seem uglier or more out of shape
Okay, and
through
then
whatever movie effects.
sure.
And then once they're in the game, you can sort of like beautificate them up or
Sure.
have them actually be more muscly because you just had Idris Elba in baggy clothes,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
in the
So for the Ash character, do you hire like a transgender person so they can play the male and female role, or do you cast just two different people, maybe twins who are male and female that get to do it?
I think if it were me, I would have both options open in terms of we'll cast a wide net and see if these two people look like each other, or if there's one person who we think, okay, they look enough like both that we could sort of pull it off and it would be organic, or just like, nope, we're going to make this person definitely like, or yeah, we have like, oh, why is this person look so different? Because lots of people, like, I could play a female character
Hmm.
in Dungeons and Dragons if I wanted to.
Sure.
It's not because I'm trans or
Hmm.
whatever. It's just that can just be a thing. It's like, well, I just wanted to play a female. Maybe you expand more on that in the movie or the show, whatever you do. But I don't have an answer for you because I think society would dictate that it should be a trans person,
Hmm.
but I think it would just depend on how I want to tell the story.
Yeah. And also, who do you see more of? You probably see more of Ash, the woman. So maybe you cast a woman, and then for all those other flashback scenes, you do some digital trickery, put a wig on her, some stubble, and just make her play a dude. You do male drag
Sure.
instead of female drag. Maybe that's it. Now, when they're kids and they go in there, are they their kid version, or do you just use the same adult versions?
Well, that's a good question.
Because I think like you would probably have to make like in the book they are kids and they are grown up versions and younger versions when they're in that world. Like it's not they came looking like Idris Elba when they were 17 and then they come back looking exactly like Idris Elba at the same age. Because she did say she got pregnant,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
she was 17. But did she look 17?
I think
Did
they became their older
their older?
selves.
That's how I would play
Yeah,
it.
but because we don't really see the original campaign, I think in the movie version you get away with that.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think you would just kind of write that off. If you do flashbacks, you just have the full grown actors
Mm-hmm.
because I think you could do it organically enough. Even if it's just like put a scar on it. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
ways to sort of change their appearance while keeping them looking exactly the
Yeah.
same. Uh, but we're getting ahead of
Yeah. I'll
ourselves.
probably cut all that.
Yeah.
That's too much on die. We'll come back to it. But we did both watch Sunny. Do you want
Mhm.
to? I mean, I know you're a little vague on it. Do you want to even talk about it?
I mean, we can. I guess we can talk about it, and if you think it sucks, we can cut. Uh, yeah, unfortunately, I was watching my son when I was watching it, and he was fussy at times, so I could only get like pieces at a time. So it wasn't a pure sit down and finish it in one fell swoop. So I lost some of it, but I remember enjoying the episode. I heard it was a great episode, and by the end of it, I was like, I don't know if that was better than the first two, but I think I just need to sit down and
I
rewatch
think
it.
it was better than the first one, especially story wise. But I think this is a classic Sunny episode. I like we get a little like what happened to that monkey that what do you say like got us drunk, robbed us, and fucked our faces. But come on, really, you're not going to smell dead, dying monkey behind the kegs, behind the bar you sit at all the time. But it's fine.
Yeah, it's them. Uh, I will say I was shocked by the amount of the C word in this
Oh
episode,
yeah.
but them
Uh-huh.
like giving that award to D, and I'm
Hmm.
like, how could you give that away? You earned that.
Yeah. Was her paralysis, was that makeup or was that a CG thing? Because I feel like they kept her turned a lot, and then
I
there
think,
was money
no,
shots, but it looked too extreme to be makeup. I don't know.
no, I think that was just her making a face.
There's no fucking way that's her making a face.
I'm saying it's her making a face.
I'll put money on it. There's no way she is drooping half her face as perfectly and still talking out the other side. No fucking way, Steve. Biggest blunder in 2023, you saying that.
Maybe, but
All
I
right.
also maybe I just believe in the talents of the great Caitlin Olsen.
I you know, you got a point. She is very good.
She is probably the greatest female comedian actress we have.
Yeah, wouldn't argue that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in terms of just like physical comedy and
yeah,
just very underrated is all I'm saying.
and
She's
not afraid to do anything,
yeah,
even if it
she's
makes it look dumb.
fearless.
Yeah, but we'll come back and find details on that because you're
Okay,
absolutely losing this one.
okay.
Yeah, and what was Charlie's curse?
So Dee was losing her apartment because she thought it was the witch lady played by
Yeah,
Rhea Perlman,
yeah. I was waiting
Danny
until she
DeVito's
would
wife.
show up eventually.
Yeah. So she's done one thing with Sunny before. Do you know what it is?
Hmm. Was she like a voice on a phone or something?
No.
Oh,
She played the old lady in the musical that they did of the live shows. So instead of, well, you know how they did that tour of the musical episode they did?
yeah.
So Rhea Perlman, at least for one show, was the old lady who played the piano.
Oh, okay. But
Yeah,
nothing in the show.
but nothing in the show. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So if you're a fan of Sunny and you own the season 3, I think DVD, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
season 4, whatever it is, and you watch the bonus features where they recorded one of their live shows, Rhea Perlman
Okay,
was her
that was
Sunny.
season 3.
I think it was season 4.
The Nightman Cometh, right?
Nightman Cometh. Yeah,
Yeah.
season 4, season 5.
Okay.
I want to say 4.
Cool. I don't have anything else to say about
Uh,
Sunny.
yeah. So
Frank had a seagull egg that was bloody because he murdered it, which that was sad. I didn't like seeing that. Dennis couldn't remember simple words,
yeah.
and Mac was lucky because he had a monkey paw. Oh God, all the stuff with him and that baseball player
Oh,
was
the way
so embarrassing. Yeah, the way he's talking to him.
it's so like embarrassingly adorable though,
Yeah,
because
he's so pathetic.
he's in his 40s, pushing 50s. They even I think they might have even said in this episode or the previous whatever it was, but it's like yeah, we're closer to 50 than we are to
Mm.
40, and him just acting like a small child just because he likes a baseball player is really funny. I don't know.
But I love the payoff is the dude steals his monkey paw and runs away.
But yeah, so what was Charlie's again?
Yeah, I don't know.
Shit, because Charlie's the one who's like,
He's
oh, it's def yeah,
explaining the
this is definitely
curses,
curses.
and like Cricket cursed Mac, but it didn't do anything. Yeah, did Charlie? Charlie had to have had one. That
Whatever.
was Wednesday. That was
Yeah,
a whole
I need to
4 days
rewatch the
ago.
episode.
Anyhow, still killing it.
Yeah,
Classic
great season.
episode. Yeah. You're gonna watch Black Mirror, so I shouldn't really talk about Black Mirror.
I mean, you can say you watched Black Mirror, but and give like you liked it, you didn't like it.
Okay,
Two episodes were good, 3 were
so
bad.
there's
Whatever.
a couple of things that I know you want to see or will see, so I'm not going to go too in depth with them. I'll do 3 quick style. Okay?
Let's do it.
All right, first one. What I saw today. Elemental. Disney Pixar's latest movie. It's not bad. It's totally fine. Totally serviceable. It's just you've seen this a million fucking times, and it feels like an AI movie. Like the plot is like, what if fire fell in love with water? Wouldn't that be crazy? This is just Zootopia, but instead of animals, it's fire. It's the same sort of bigotry between the species
Mm.
and having your own towns and fire people don't really go to any other place because it's really dangerous. Which it's a crazy world like the fire people trying to just get onto a subway. They're like lighting the earth people on fire. They can get doused at any second. The train is on like a water flume. It would be like driving around and all the roads are made of acid. And it's like, why would you ever go to this place? It seems crazy, but I like the voice cast. I think they do a good job. I don't like the lead dude. His character, what was his name?
Wade.
Wade. Yeah, he like the first time you are introduced to him, he's bawling his eyes out. He's just so, and his whole family, they're all just very
Now, as he's bawling
emotional.
his eyes out, is he shrinking?
No, not really.
Ah,
They do some of those
yeah, yeah,
jokes,
yeah.
but not consistently. And it's like it's fine to show like an emotional person, but it's like instantly just he comes out of the gate crying and he's obnoxious. He grows on you a bit more, but it's your allegory of uh, being an immigrant and trying to what's the, when you come together, try to
Cohabitate?
not cohabitate but integrate. Assimilate. That's the word. Try
Assimilate,
to
yeah.
assimilate with the world around you, and then like the the fire dad not liking these water kids coming into his shop. They douse everything and no more water people. And you have to say, well, not all water is bad. So it's you've seen it before, and like kind of just in the past few years, like Turning Red and Luca, something else about like not living up to your parents' expectations, and yeah, it's just the Mad Libs sort of Disney
Mm.
movie. It's very simple, and it's like two blank fall in love. She's a blank and he's a blank, and like, oh well, he's a meat eater and a plant eater. Oh, that's crazy. It's just it's so basic, but it's fine. It's still cute. It's enjoyable, and it looks great. It is a beautiful movie.
As all Pixar movies are.
Yeah, they generally are, but you can really tell there's a lot of care. But it is a little repetitive of just will they, won't they, will they, won't they.
Mm. Can I ask you, are there any elemental slurs? Like, do they? It's like, get those
Oh,
hydros out of here. We don't like
oh,
hydros in our neighborhood.
there is a cloud lady calls her a fireball, and she calls her like a fluffy puff or something like that. They're very simple,
Yeah, yeah,
but nothing overt. But there is you can tell there's the racism from the dad and
sure.
just not liking water people. There is a part when she was younger, trying to go to a museum to see this flower that blooms in any condition, and it's the thing that should be unifying the city. It could grow in all of our lands, and they won't let them in. Like, no fire people, you're gonna light it on fire, and they're like, yeah, get out of here, go back to your own kind, and stuff like that. So it's there. It's pretty overt. It's not subtle about any of
Sure.
its messaging, but it's fine.
Hmm.
I liked Turning Red better. I liked Luca much better. Soul at least has like a better story, I think, but I would probably rewatch Elemental over Soul. Like, I
Sure.
never need to see Soul again.
Yeah, I think the problem with Soul is it's not super fun.
Yeah, yeah, and like they
So,
kill a cat and take its body. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I don't like about that movie. But that one's also like it's inoffensive. It's totally fine.
yeah.
But this is just Zootopia that feels like Inside Out. So Extraction 2, I I'm not as obsessed with Extraction 1 as some people I know. This one is definitely, I think, better. I think this is a better story. I
Okay.
don't remember really anything of that first story except get a kid.
Yeah. I mean,
And that's his thing.
yeah.
Go get the person. And he does it again, but it's, get a family. There's a closer, it's his sister in law and her kids who's tied up with a big bad guy and got to get him out. And it's a pretty good action movie. They're kind of known for their long takes.
Hmm.
And I think I'm over long takes. I think
Okay.
unless they are authentic, in camera, single shot, I don't really care. Because special effects are so good now. You could do almost anything. It's not impressive that you can stitch two things digitally when you can recreate so much flawlessly, and we would never know the difference. There isn't the obvious, when people are walking upstairs and the camera gets a little too close to someone's back and it
Right.
pulls out, and that's where the cut is. The cuts feel like they're more someone kicks someone in the chest and they go flying, and so you have a big,
Camera.
a whip pan,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's so fast that you can create any sort of digital fuckery in the middle there and just blend it all, and it happens so quick you don't notice it. So it gets a little tiresome. There's like a half hour one in a pretty early part of the movie. And it's cool, but it's going from one thing to this prison to underground to on a truck and in a boat and on a train and fighting helicopters. It's just like it stretches the believability. All
Sure.
action movies do, but it's like you'd be so fucking tired after just like the first 5 minutes of this. But I enjoyed it. I except it's one of those movies where a character does something fucking stupid and a lot of people die because of it,
Mm.
and like you stupid kid, I hate you so much. The young boy in this, he really got a lot of people murdered.
Yeah, I remember. the first one coming out, and I had no real inclination to watch it.
Yeah.
And then I think everyone's like, "Nah, dude,
Check it out.
check it out. It's pretty cool." And I did. And I remember going, "Yeah, the story's nothing
Yeah.
impressive, but the action sequences are good."
Hmm.
So when I heard this was coming out, I was like, "Ugh, I don't care." And then I saw the trailer where there's some pretty cool action sequences
Yeah.
just in the trailer. I was like, "God damn it, I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch this one."
Yeah.
There was, I think, the one that sold me because I heard about the big prison,
Hmm.
huge long take fight scene or whatever, and I was like, okay, I'm into that shit. That sounds good. But it was him fighting someone and just like slamming them on like a treadmill, and they
Oh
slide
yeah, yeah.
out like
That's
the
a good one.
yeah. I'm not doing it justice describing it, but it's in the trailer, and I was like, okay, I'm fucking watching this movie because that was real cool.
Yeah, he does do plenty of cool things. Lots of good hand to hand. Not as much. I expected a bit more. It's a bit more gun heavy. But yeah, if you're into this shit, you'll love this shit. This is a good highlight reel. I'm sure Corridor Crew is going to do a stuntman react to it, and probably a digital arts react to talking about long takes. It is a perfectly fine action movie. I just don't really care much about what's his name, Jake Rake or something. Johnny, it's Rake. It's something Rake.
I haven't seen the first one in years, so I
I'm
couldn't
gonna
tell
call
you.
him Jake Rake. Yeah, he's not that interesting of a character, and they don't do too much more with him in this that we didn't get in the first one. Oh, my kid died, and that's sad. That's sad, and it fucked up my whole family. You get a little more of him with his wife, but yeah, it's nothing all that
I hope his
interesting.
name is Jake Rake,
Yeah,
and they call him the Snake, so he's Jake the Snake Rake. That'd be pretty funny.
yeah.
Anyway,
Anyhow, but the Extraction 2. What I wanted to talk about today as our main topic was Black Mirror season 6 came out, 5 episodes. So like last season was only 2, and that was before COVID, wasn't it?
was
Because
it only two? There's no
no,
way it was
I'm
only
not
two.
2. It's 3. It was 3. It's
Okay,
yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. But I think that was pre-COVID because when COVID was happening, people were asking, "Hey, when are we going to get some more Black Mirror?" And it's like the world fucking sucks enough. We don't need to point that out. So this season is great. I don't think it's going to live up to season 1, 2, or 3. Those are the classics, before it
sure.
became an American show. But there's a lot in here that is very Black Mirror y, Black Mirror esque. They really fit, like, especially the first one. Like, oh, that's exactly what you want out of a Black Mirror. Uh, One of them is a little standard. Like the second one, I think is a bit standard, but still an interesting story. But this, I don't know if it's really a Black Mirror story. It fits enough. Um, the third one will probably go down as like the episode of season 5.
Okay.
I really liked it. It's probably my second favorite, but I don't know. It's a bit long. It's a cool idea, but I don't know. It's not that fun. It's
Okay.
definitely one of the bleaker ones. Uh, Episode 4 with like Zazie Beats, and that one is going to be the one. It's actually on IMDb as the worst rated Black Mirror
Oh
episode out
wow.
of the entire series. It's like a 5.6 or something. Most of the episodes don't go
Jeez.
lower than like 6.8. Uh, but I really like it. It definitely feels like the first half feels like Black Mirror, and the second half feels like a different anthology show that I won't mention, so I don't like give anything away. So it takes a turn that we haven't seen in Black Mirror before, but I still really like it. I think it's loads of fun, but I get why people are pissed off. Like, hey, this one's supposed to tell me about my phone being bad. Why has it got this thing in it? And so that's all I'll say about that.
Okay.
And
I'm intrigued.
the last one could have been its own movie. It's pretty long. It's like an hour and 20 minutes. It's really fun. Great concept. Good actors. I don't know if I love the ending because maybe it's just me always trying to predict how things are going to happen, and it's one of those where let's take like what's a good example, like cabin knock at the cabin door.
Mhm.
And how is this movie going to end? It's either going to be they're crazy and there is no apocalypse, or they're not crazy and there is an apocalypse. So it's similar to that.
Mhm.
And what I thought was going to happen was the opposite. And I don't know if it was the best of the options, but I am biased because it's me and I love my ideas more than anybody
Of
else's.
course.
But it's still really good. So if I was going to rank them all, I'd say probably episode 1, 3, 5, 4, 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't have to tell me what episode it is if this is the case, but it seems like, with the exception of season one, I think every season has kind of a happy episode with either
Mm
San Junipero or
hmm.
Hang
Mm
the
hmm.
DJ and stuff. Is there a happy episode
Yes.
in this? Okay.
Yeah. You don't want to know which one?
No, no, no.
Okay.
I'll go in blind.
Okay. Cool. But yeah, I was talking to a guy at work, and I was like, "Hey, Black Mirror came out today. You excited?" I don't know what that is. Oh, you do not have Netflix? I got Netflix. And you haven't heard of Black Mirror? It's been around for like 8 years. It's on season 6. Like, nope, don't know what that
Just
was.
started Friends for my rewatch though. God damn.
Just started House of Cards. I'm going through all the Netflix things from release. That'd be a fun challenge. There's way too much of that now. I thought about that years ago. Like, oh, that would have been a fun podcast to just talk about one streaming service. You pick Netflix and you only watch the exclusive things that they create. But now it's every other thing is a Netflix exclusive,
Right,
something
right,
they
right.
create. And you just couldn't do it.
You can
But
do Apple in like a month,
sure,
but then
yeah.
Netflix it would take you 6 years.
Yeah, if we were on just a purely we watch a movie and just talk about that one movie podcast, I think it would be something we'd roll a die, find a service, and you have to then we would roll another genre and you just had to find something
Mm.
on that service with that genre. And maybe you could even do year. It's got to end with a 3. So it's 93, 2003, 2013, 73, something like that.
It's a fun idea.
Yeah. See, I'm all full of ideas and I love them. They're so good. But yeah, Black Mirror's great. I can't believe other people haven't heard about it. I described it to him. I can't remember. I told him, oh, the woman who's Donald Gleason dies and he
Yeah, yeah,
turns
yeah.
into a robot. Like this is one extreme of kind of how the sci-fi stuff is, and then the other one is will the president fuck a pig? And it's like everything kind of is in between that. And hopefully he'll watch it because I recommend everyone watch this. This is one of my favorite anthology shows, and I think even the ones that are kind of quote unquote bad are still great. Like you remember Crocodile,
Yeah.
and for the people at home that don't remember, like you have a chip implanted in you, and it remembers all your everything you see.
Hmm.
And then it ends up in a hamster at the end, and because he like kills or she kills a baby because the baby saw it, but it was in a hamster instead. It's like kind of a stupid thing, but I still love that episode. All the bad episodes are still pretty good.
Yeah.
I think there may be only one that I didn't love, but even right now, I can't even remember what it would
Do you
be.
remember the name of the killer robot dog thing? 'Cause I
Oh
thought
yeah,
that was Crocodile.
metalhead.
Metalhead. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
no, crocodile was
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
yeah. Yeah, those are my 3 short shots.
All right.
20
Rapid
minutes of
fire.
short shots. Now it's you. You got a thing.
So this is my last thing before I can go to the main topic. I'm not sure how much more you have. I read a comic book, graphic novel, Batman: Curse of the White Knight. So it's a very DC heavy episode. Clearly, this is the sequel to Batman: White Knight, which I talked about on the podcast however long ago. So just as like a brief summary of Batman: White Knight, essentially, uh, the Joker starts taking pills to cure his
Oh,
psychosis,
yeah,
and he
yeah.
reverts back to Jack Napier, and he becomes fully normal. He is cured of his insanity, and he realizes that he has been a scourge on Gotham. And is that the
Yeah,
word? Yeah,
Scourge.
scourge on Gotham, and he decides to run for councilman. And his platform is like, I'm going to bring down the Batman kind of thing. Because Batman has caused so much damage to the city. And it basically just goes like, look, and he's mostly patrolling these neighborhoods, which are predominantly minorities. So it's like, here's a white man coming in and destroying your city and not paying for anything and possibly profiling minorities and all that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. And kind of takes all the Batman mythos and just sort of uh, subverts a lot of it and changes things, but also pays uh, tribute to 40 years of Batman comics and movies, and there's plenty of references to things in there. And it's basically, uh, it's just great. It's honestly, I think, one of the greatest Batman comics ever.
Okay.
There's, I only have one nitpick.
Was it like he pulls out a giant space gun or something at the very end?
So there may be a giant freeze ray gun, I believe. So it's just like this really interesting take on Batman and his place in Gotham, and uh, is he necessary anymore when the Joker is doing more good than he is,
Hmm.
and making solid points, and kind of doing what the Dark Knight did, where Harvey Dent is the White Knight of Nolan's universe. Like,
Hmm.
he's the thing that Gotham truly needs, not Batman. Batman is a band-aid on crime,
Yeah.
where Harvey Dent would have been the savior of Gotham, but then that fails.
Hmm.
So this is kind of taking that concept but putting it with the Joker. And of course, eventually the pills start wearing off, and he's like jumping into back into a Joker mode, and yada yada
Did
yada.
they do the thing where he's like shaking, he's trying to get his pills, and he's looking in a mirror, and the Joker's looking back at him?
I need to reread
Oh,
the
okay.
original. But anyway, it's fantastic. And my only nitpick was it does have this sort of comic booky third act bit, which I didn't love.
Hmm.
But it's still great. I'd put it up there with, you know, Nightfall and Long Halloween and No Man's Land. No Man's Land's my favorite. This might be my second favorite.
Okay.
But highly recommend. It's written by Sean Murphy. Uh, and so, anyway,
That's the recap.
that's the recap of book one, just to give you a sense of what went down. Uh, so book two, I think, is even better.
Oh.
Yeah, I love this comic book. So it takes place not too long after book one, and it has to do with sort of the history of the Waynes in Gotham. And Azrael is probably my favorite Batman sort of villain slash partner in
Hmm.
some regards,
Yeah.
because they both want
They want the
to.
same goals,
Yeah,
but
they're essentially
they.
the same person, but one is on a crusade of a self crusade, and then Azrael is on a holy crusade.
Hmm.
But they're both mass dudes who are badass who go to Gotham to try and cure it of its crime disease, uh, for lack of better description. Uh,
Crime disease. I think that's a
yeah, yeah.
real word.
Plus, I just love kind of holy paladins, and he's got a
Mm.
flaming sword, and he
Hmm.
just looks fucking badass. So he's in this, and he's fucking cool. But he's just kind of like he's the main villain, but he doesn't. He also doesn't have like that much screen time, quote
Hmm.
unquote, even though it's obviously not screen. So basically, uh, Azrael comes in and he has a connection to the Waynes. So there's a fun little backstory to this where the comic book opens and it's like the 1700s or something like that,
Oh.
where Gotham is it's kind of like a new colony or whatever from Britain.
Hmm.
And you see Wayne, the first Wayne in Gotham, his name is Edmund Wayne, and he's sword fighting this guy who looks very similar to the Joker, not a clown, but has similar face.
Sure. Sharp nose and
Yeah,
chin.
clearly the original Joker. And
So did he come over from Jack the Ripper time? Because isn't Joker supposed to also be Jack the
well, he's
Ripper?
not actually Joker, and there's
But it
no.
could be
This
his.
guy's not necessarily.
Okay.
It's not stated that they're related or anything. It's
Okay.
just similar features. He's
Yeah.
laughing as they're fighting. Ha 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 ha. But his what's what I like about him is his name was Lafayette Arkham,
Mhm.
and they called him Laffy, and I was like, oh, that's good. So he's Joker and
Yeah.
Laffy, and
Yeah.
but obviously he's Arkham, Wayne, and yada yada.
Hmm.
So. Uh, and Azrael has a connection to sort of that, and where the Order of Saint Dumas
Because
sort
they're
of.
like pilgrims and stuff, right? So I'm assuming they're religious people.
Uh, well, so I don't want to give anything away because I think you
Okay.
really dig this comic
Okay.
book. But anyway, so from the first story of White Knight, basically there's the Napier Initiative, which is sort of like the Dent Act from
Mm.
where it's like Batman may or may not be necessary anymore. If we go with the Napier initiative, it'll change the city and all this stuff. But Batman just can't trust it because this is a Joker initiative kind of
Hmm.
thing. It may seem good, but there's got to be something else to this because even though that the Joker is back behind bars and everything's okay, like something doesn't feel right. And long story short, uh, it's just great, and and I highly recommend it. It's one of the best Batman comics. If you love these characters, it goes in directions I think you won't see coming, and I know the next bit is involves Batman Beyond and Terry McGinnis,
Ooh.
which is exciting. And I yeah, I want to talk to you more about it, but I don't want to give anything away because I'm gonna let you borrow it if you want to read because I have both of them. And yeah, I fucked this up.
Yeah, I'm not gonna even. I was gonna say, ask about certain characters or story beats, but save it, and I'll read it.
Okay.
Yeah, don't spoil me. I don't read enough Batman comics. He was never my guy when I was younger. I was always an X-Men kid.
I mean, he's the only superhero I read.
Hmm. Yeah, and I watched the animated series, and I always liked Batman. I never gave a shit about DC. I never bought any of their comics. I was always just Marvel or Image, Top Cow. They had the violence and the sexy big boob ladies, so of
Jesus.
course I was gonna start reading that. Well, I saw all three new releases this weekend. I saw the Blackening, the movie you were itching to see ever since we did our predictions of the year. You said, I saw that title and that's for me. I said, Steve, that's kind of a weird thing. You don't like horror movies. And you're like, this is my best of the year. Sorry to tell
That's not what I said at all.
you.
Uh,
but really sorry to tell you, it's not a very good movie.
from the trailer, it didn't look very good.
It's not it's more comedy than horror for sure, absolutely, it's not even a question, but it's not scary in the slightest. Everything is a little undercut with someone just kind of screaming and pop culture reference and moving on. It really, when you break it down, seven friends or nine, there's two of them that die at the beginning. Every horror movie, you got to kill someone off at the beginning, then cut to the rest of the cast as they make their way to the cabin. They're having a fun time. They get put into a situation where someone's trying to kill them. Is it from their past and looking to get revenge? Then you find out and it's over. It's like a story you've heard before. And so you think it's going to get subverted a bit because the whole cast is black. And what do you do with that when, the black person dies first in every horror movie? There's a small part in the middle where they're actually playing the Blackening game. And it is just the killer on like a walkie-talkie speaking through the game. And you pull a card and it will just have random questions, especially specifically about pop culture. Like one of them is, there was four major black characters on Friends. Can you name them all? And then the joke is, the answer is, I'm black. I'm black. I don't watch Friends. I watched yeah, Living Single or whatever it was. Um, and like in my theater, they were asking certain questions. Like one was, "This is the unofficial Black national anthem, and everybody knows the first verse, but can you sing the second?" I was like, "What the fuck is this song? It's so not my culture that I have no idea." But there's people behind me. And they're just like answering all the questions, and they know exactly all the words. So it
It's like
was
that SNL Black Jeopardy. Uh,
yes. But it's a fun moment when, and it's in the trailer, they pull the card and says, who's the blackest of the group? If you sacrifice this person, I'll let everybody else live. And they're all arguing, well, what makes you black? One guy, his father's from Africa. One person they accuse, like her mom's white, and they're like, oh, well, you could always make fun of me for being half white, but now I'm the blackest person. And well, I voted Republican, so I'm not. And they're all kind of picking at each other of who is. And I wish the movie was more of that, of kind of like pitting them against each other and trying to like play up some of these stereotypes we see in movies and subvert them in some way. But after they play this game for a bit and they do pick the sacrifice, the doors just get unlocked and then they run around the house and the property around while someone shoots a crossbow at them. And it becomes really uninteresting. And then when you find out who the killer is, there's no clue. I mean, I called it early on. It's way obvious. Um, but there's no clue as to why this person is doing any of it. So at the very end, they have to ask, well, what the hell? Well, you remember back in college when yada, 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 yada has to explain the whole thing. And then 5 minutes later, the bad guy is defeated. And it just feels like they could have put anything in that section. It could have been like a cult. All your parents are in a cult and they sacrificed my parents and now I'm going to do the same. It could have been anything and it would have worked because they don't lay it out throughout. I think this could have been a whole lot of fun, especially if you did something. And I don't have this isn't really fleshed out, so I don't even know why I'm talking about it. But if instead of just 7 black friends hang out in a cabin, what if it was say 7 black actors and you actually cast black actors who have been in horror movies who were the first to die and did that trope and they're getting together for a comic convention to talk about black people in horror movies and then you put them in a situation where they are actually in a horror movie and you do the sort of tropey thing I was saying of pitting them against each other. I think if you change their backgrounds and not just 10 friends from college, I think it could be a bit more interesting, but I don't know. I haven't thought of like, well, what would be the motivation then? Is it some disgruntled white producer who hates black films, or is it I don't know, anyone?
I like that idea though.
It's I
That's
think
fun.
I think it's a bit more fun. And if you want to know, the killer is the nerdy guy that voted for Trump in the trailer. Yeah, because he got picked on at a party.
For being Republican or just
No, just because he was a dork and they wouldn't teach him how to play spades or something. It was some game. Yeah, it was spades, and he knew how to play and he did bad, and they mocked him for it. Oh yeah, he like accidentally cheated. He didn't realize he had cheated, and they gave him shit. And he got so drunk that he drove, and then he killed a girl, and then had to go to prison for it. And this is his revenge. And he hired 2 twin hillbillies to help, hunt them down. It's pretty lame.
So you're hoping for more of a like if there was a Scream, but with an all black
Yes.
cast or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So that's another pass from me. Squandered opportunity, but I'm here for it. Keep trying. So let's talk about our main thing.
Let's
get
do it.
get to the
I
main
think
topic.
this'll be a good combo. I hope so anyway.
Okay, well, we saw the Flash. Very surprising, Steve. You've all heard him talk shit on comic book movies and being sick of it all. Didn't expect you to see this, but for your Father's Day gift, you saw the last gasp of the DCEU.
Well, there's still Aquaman and Blue Beetle.
Sure, yeah, I guess, but this is practically like the murdering of the whole universe. So what comes next? It's like Bumblebee. When Bumblebee came out, they said, "Oh no, this is a prequel to Transformers." And then some things didn't line up, and people liked it pretty well. And then they had to kind of change their tune. Like, no, this is a new continuity. This is different because we want this whole new GI Joe trilogy with it. So
Sam Witwicky never heard of him.
yeah. Um, so yeah, Blue Beetle. I think they can repurpose if necessary, depending on how James Gunn's universe kind of looks. It may be a little too different. But Aquaman, that's a thing in limbo. It just doesn't exist in anything. I'm saying Flash is the end of it, especially for how the movie ends. It is definitely the end of you can't go back and fix it. Like, no matter what he does, it's been changed forever. So let's just basic stuff. Did you give a shit about this movie in any way?
I want to say off the top that although I do talk shit on a lot of superhero movies and I think it's well deserved in a lot of regards, I always try and do my best to give each movie a fair shake. I like Guardians 3.
Yeah.
I get it.
But it's an anomaly within Marvel anyways.
But you have enjoyed more of the DC stuff than I haven't enjoyed any of the DC stuff really. I liked Man of Steel,
Okay.
and I remember liking Aquaman for the most part. If I went back and rewatched, I don't know if I'd have the same tune. I
Okay.
because I don't really remember that much. I only saw it the one time in
Hmm.
theaters, and that was however long ago.
It's
But
kind of tough the second time.
I did not like Dawn of Justice, and I fucking hated Justice League,
Yeah.
and I refused to watch the 4 hour version of Justice League. Wonder Woman, the first one was decent,
Yeah.
and
Second one, shit.
84 wasn't as good,
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm
You're
missing
missing a
one.
few.
Okay,
Harley Quinn.
didn't see it.
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
started it on HBO Max, I think, at one point,
Hmm.
but I started at like 2 a.m. and fell asleep.
Okay.
So, but I was like, eh.
Oh yeah, there's Suicide Squad, OG, and then
And
the
the
Suicide Squad.
the original, it was whatever. The second one, entertaining. I know it was your number one of it, but it didn't even crack my top 10. It was
Yeah.
just there's things I like about this, but it
Hmm.
didn't blow me away.
Okay. So where does this fall in all that?
Uh, second to last place.
Really?
Yeah.
That bad, huh?
I yeah. I think the only thing that is worth, and well, maybe third last,
Okay.
because
So
I'd say
Justice
Justice League
League.
is the absolute bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
Uh, Dawn of Justice, or no, I'm sorry, not Dawn of Justice. Batman v Superman
Yeah.
might be next, and then this,
Wow.
maybe.
Okay.
I basically I've tuned a lot of them out at this
Yeah.
point, so uh,
I'm kind of surprised. I think there's a lot in here that is fun, helps the previous movies that are bad feel like more palatable. But I would say this is top three.
look, I understand that.
No, top four. Top four. Top four.
I understand a lot of people seem to like this
Yeah.
and had a good time with it, and that's great. I am happy you enjoyed a thing.
Uh huh.
And I went in this and I saw that people were enjoying it, and I was like, I'm gonna keep my expectations low because the
Hmm.
trailers didn't really do anything for me, and they kind of just looked like more of what I was expecting
Yeah.
from what we've gotten before.
Yeah.
But then reviews have come out and they've been okay, and audience seemed to really enjoy it. So I went in not hopeful, but just with an open mind.
Okay.
And this movie did absolutely nothing for me. I didn't like there were moments I liked,
Huh.
but pretty much all of it I thought this was a waste of 2.5 hours.
Wow. Okay. Well, what's the most egregious shit you don't like? What's the thing that you like? Wow, this is if you could take everything else out, this is the worst thing.
uh, I mean, I think it has overall structural issues
Okay.
in terms of filmmaking I don't care for. But if I was just going to remove like one scene, it'd be the opening set
With
piece.
the babies
With
falling.
of course with the babies falling, because I mean it one like okay, so the Batman chase sequence stuff,
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that part of it. I think it was shot pretty well. Just the look of it looked really good. I was like, give me this Batman
Yeah.
movie, because we never really got to see Ben Affleck shine as
No.
Batman. Like he had a great warehouse fight scene, and then he fought Superman at one point.
Yeah.
But then
And
everything
then
else,
nothing for Justice League. You're like,
yeah,
oh, I'm in my giant tank. Yeah, that's what we want to see. Batman in a
yeah.
tank.
So this just kind of showed like, oh, if they did more stuff like this with Ben Affleck's Batman, cool.
Yeah.
But the baby sequence was not the way to open this movie. Jesus Christ, this looked bad.
I think this was a great way to open it because one, Flash is a little more comical, and so he can do sillier situations. And two, it really showed his power off in an interesting way to get people on board right from the get. If they don't know what the Flash is all about, I think this intro is pretty good at getting you on board.
I think what the I mean, there's so many problems. I think for me, one the easy thing to pick apart is I think the CG doesn't look very good. It
Yeah.
looks bad. And I know there's been a lot of shit talking superhero movies, like these big budget movies that are dropping 300 million on production or whatever
Hmm.
just to make them. and the CG still looks bad.
Yeah.
I can let bad CG
Yeah.
go. I can live with this scene, but I do recognize that it doesn't look great. My thing is, we've seen this scene done before multiple times now.
Sure.
Better. Uh,
Like Quicksilver and
like Quicksilver in two different X-Men movies. Obviously, the first one is the
yeah.
greatest, and the second one is just like we're gonna try and recreate that magic, and it doesn't quite hit it, but it's still good. But we've seen that version of Quicksilver. We've seen a version of Quicksilver
MCU.
in the MCU, which is better, and we've seen the Eternals version
Mm-hmm.
of the Flash,
Yeah.
and I loved how that looked when
That
she
looked
was
good.
running,
Yeah.
and Barry Allen, like just him running looks
Yeah.
ridiculous.
His
What?
his stance, that is a
Yeah.
choice.
So it's just this scene. It just doesn't work for me because it just fails on all. It doesn't look as good. Isn't as funny. Isn't as interesting.
And you've
And
seen it before.
I've seen it before. So
Okay.
it's just a waste of us. I get why because
Mm-hmm.
it's like we need to see the Flash save a bunch of people very quickly. And what the other Flashes didn't do is like, well, they're not really powered by food, but he
Mm-hmm.
is. So it's like he's got to eat everything to speed himself back up, to
Mm-hmm.
slow everything down. But
Metabolism, baby.
no, I get it. It just that whole scene. I was so distracted by how stupid this fucking was that all comedy lost on me. Like when I saw all these babies falling to their deaths while like
With
not
like acid flying at them and one like it's
and
scalpels
yeah,
coming.
just scalpels and broken glass flying at another
Yeah.
baby. Ben, he put a baby in a microwave.
Yeah, that was
How the
weird.
fuck did that get past? Like whoever was in
Yeah.
charge to go like
A laundry basket, something, but a
because
microwave?
there's so many ways he could have gotten out of that. Where you not necessarily you could have made anything up, but you take the thing that it's like that one thing all parents' nightmares are is just hearing of babies in microwaves and stuff. Like that's a common thing that it should be common, but
Wasn't that a thing in Happy? Didn't someone microwave a baby in Happy?
I,
And that's what
I know
he
they
came
did it in True
across?
Detective,
Okay.
and so just like I had to sitting there. I have a 6 week old baby, and I turned to my wife, and it's like I just imagined like if this was like right before we had the baby or right I don't know.
You would have loved this thing.
yeah, I just imagine in her mind she's like this is the fucking worst thing I've ever seen because this is the first time we've been out away from our child for an extended period of time, and the opening scene is here's 12 dead babies coming, and it was just so 5 minutes in I was like I fucking hate this movie, so I would remove the opening sequence.
Okay. And okay, so let's since it's right at the beginning and we have the Batman stuff and then Flash comes to help Batman. Then of course Wonder Woman has to show up. That music cue is now almost like a comedy beat. Every time I hear it, it's so funny because it feels exactly like Shazam that she had earlier this year. And then, hey, even in Fast X, she just gets a weird little cameo where she just shows up and it's like, "Hi, I'm here as well. Bye."
Yeah, she's making so much money being in these big tentpole movies, but doing nothing in
Nothing.
them.
Yeah,
What a career!
and it feels. I like it because this is where comic book movies really should be going, where other heroes can show up and do their thing and leave. That happens in comics all the time.
Mm.
How many times are you watching, say just an Iron Man or Captain America movie and say, well, why don't you call the Avengers for this? They could probably help. And there's always some excuse. So and so's off planet,
Mm.
someone's stopping a volcano. But this is kind of what happens in comics all the time. Oh no, I'm about to fall. Someone swoops in and saves you. It's just hearing that is just so funny. I used to love that, and I felt it really fit that character. But now it's just it could be a clown honking horn.
Yeah, she had a car. That's how it would pull up every time.
So after she saves them, they do the same joke that they've done. I'd say at least twice before of someone's tangled up in her lasso and they start speaking the truth and Batman says something like I'm too egotistical to ever take a compliment and
Give a compliment.
to give a compliment and then Barry is like I know what sex is but I've never done it. That's not what the lasso of truth
I was
does.
going to ask you because I know because I was going to say they're just doing this for a joke, but it's like they did it with Aquaman, where he was basically saying how
and they did it
attractive
with
she was.
Steve Trevor in Wonder Woman.
So like in this world, the lasso of truth just makes you spill the truth instead of
Yeah,
I ask you a question and you have to tell me the truth. It's just like,
it doesn't reveal your deepest, darkest
yeah,
secret. It's
it,
just I ask you a question and you have to answer it truthfully. So I hated that.
yeah, yeah.
So even
I,
though I enjoyed the babies, I hated this non-comic accurate scene. Another thing about that, when you see Batman, he's in his blue and gray. I was
mhm.
like, yeah, we don't get enough blue and gray Batman. But then you look at his suit, and it was disgusting. That was the ugliest Batman suit I've seen since Justice League when he had the night owl goggles in his tank. It was all webbing. It looked like a really ugly Reebok or New Balance shoe. It was awful. It was a bad look.
That would be
Um,
pretty funny if Batman was sponsored. I mean, Batman has so much money, but he's going to
yeah,
save money, so he like
yeah.
gets sponsored by Nike.
I so I'm going to talk about his pose, and I think it really shows. And I know they do it as a joke when they're in the bank or wherever, and he's trying. Oh, they're in the police station,
I
and
mean, I
he's
feel like we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but
sure. I mean, we don't have to go beat by beat. Let's just
yeah,
talk about what's good and what's
okay.
bad.
Uh,
And he's doing the run, and he looks like a fucking idiot. And ever since Justice League, like, why is he throwing his hands out there like he's Gambit or something, throwing cards?
well, that. So that's one of the moments that I did genuinely laugh.
Yeah, it's a good joke.
It's a very good joke.
Yeah,
That being said, I agree. Why is he running like this? And
yeah.
it just feels like I need to do a silly run for
Mm-hmm.
the big CG moments because me throwing my hands up really high and stuff is more visually appealing than me just kind of like,
Yeah.
doing that little
Mm-hmm.
shuffle thing or whatever. So I have to recreate that in the real world, but no one
But it's like he's
runs like,
swimming.
yeah,
He's like scooping it in front of him. It's real stupid
yeah.
looking.
I don't. If he described like, oh, I have to run like this because it's just more aerodynamic, or
Mm-hmm.
because I'm moving so fast, I have to throw my body into it, anything. But
Sure.
just him like frolicking with his flailing his arms, just it looks so stupid. And I know for the joke, it makes it very, very funny.
Yeah.
But for the sequences where he has superpowers and he's doing the same thing, just at beyond light speed, that also looks fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Uh, so weird choice.
Yeah. So yeah, we could go back a little bit. One thing I like about this movie is it's a good origin story without having to do the origin story. You get to explain how he got his powers and even show it, but you do it with a completely different person. And so we're not just going through the typical superhero beats of I have my accident and then figuring out a costume. I mean, they even have the ring that shoots the costume out and expands. That would have been a whole sequence like Peter Parker with his web shooters. Like, you don't have to go through all the beats you normally do with an origin story. It's already established and we're just moving past it. And the fact that it works itself into the story as well, I think is handled really well.
Sure, I think, and I know it's the all heroes have to lose a loved one, and it's just like it just felt like it's basically Batman's origin story, and with the costume, yeah, sure, it's cool that it shoots out of the ring and he dresses before anyone can see, and
Mm-hmm.
that's all well and good. I don't know enough about Flash lore. I'm sure you're more well versed than I am. Uh, but but speaking of his costume, I didn't like the
I
look
hate
of
this
it.
costume.
Yeah, this costume doesn't look good. I
Yeah.
don't know what I would necessarily do to make it look good, but it just I don't know. It's uh, too fake looking.
Yeah, and it's not.
It's also a hard costume to pull off. Like it makes sense on a comic book page,
Mm-hmm.
but just a guy in a big red suit with a lightning bolt. It's like you don't need to be this color. In like
Sure.
reality, it's like, do you need to be this bright red? Like,
Yeah.
what about
It's
the
for your
Flash?
teammates so they can see you as
Yeah,
well.
it's like Wonder Woman is like that is armor of her people. Batman, he's the Dark Knight.
Blends in with the
He's a
shadows.
bat. They're black. Superman, you
It's what they wore in their
yeah,
homeworld.
he's an alien. It makes
Yeah.
sense. This is a human guy who happens to get lightning powers, and is like, know what? I'm going to dress in an all red bodysuit.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Don't ask me why.
Don't have-
Okay,
It's cool looking. That's why.
sure.
Yeah, I think I don't love the Justice League one with all the plating and the wiring, but it almost kind of felt like it made more sense because they say it's something about like heat shields from a satellite or a spaceship or something.
Hmm.
And it just kind of like, yeah, it's kind of ugly, but it works. And this is maybe more comic accurate, but it's so devoid of detail.
Sure.
And same with like, you look at Superman and go, oh, that's just blue. But in the movies, they always have fine little details and little noodling everywhere. This, I didn't see a lot of that, and it just felt so smooth and just gross. Yeah, didn't like it. And the helmet, it has little weird cutouts to make his jaw look really wide, and he's a wide jawed guy already.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little too puffy and just makes his head kind of big. It's not very good, but I will say it's better than the Batman pieced together one. That one with its big thick neck. He looked really really silly, but I kind of like the cobbled idea. I mean, you got to do something.
Sure.
So okay, so let's see. What's going on in this movie? Yeah, mom dead. What's his name from Office Space is in jail.
Ron
Which,
Livingston.
yeah, Ron Livingston, which they recast. It was Billy Crudup
Oh yeah.
in Justice League, but it's like it's close enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
curly brown haired dude. That's fine.
Practically the same guy.
Yeah.
So basic premise of this movie is Barry just accidentally discovers he can travel back in time through the Speed Force, and he's like, "I'm gonna go back in time and save my mom."
Mhm.
And he goes back in time, runs into his former self. Hilarity ensues, and now they have to save the multiverse because now he ran not only back in time, but he also ran back to a different
Yeah,
a different
multiverse.
world,
Yeah,
yeah, different multiverse where metahumans don't exist. Aquaman's dad exists, but Aquaman does not.
that's a good joke.
Wonder Woman doesn't exist. Superman, uh,
Died.
Superman, yeah, is dead. We don't find that out till later, but his cousin is alive and has been
Mhm.
captured by the U.S. government.
Murdered as a baby.
Murdered as a baby.
This movie really wants to kill babies.
Yeah. And so the only hero that exists in this world is Batman. And
Hmm.
it just happens to be Tim Burton's 1989 Michael Keaton Batman, which isn't a spoiler because it's all over the
Yeah,
trailers.
yeah. But I do love how he's like, I was so good at Batman, they don't need Batman anymore. Like, he achieved his goal that Gotham is just crime free now
Yeah.
and everything's
Safest
good.
city in the world, or
Yeah.
one of the safest cities in the world.
His wig looked a little, he looks weird with long hair at that age.
Mm.
But
And so anyway, yeah, Barry needs to undo what he did. Otherwise, all timelines will seemingly collapse into each other, and the universes will be destroyed or
yeah,
whatever.
I do like how Batman explains the time travel because they have this moment where he's talking about Back to the Future and they're
Mm.
talking about Eric Stoltz
Yep.
is in Back to the Future, and they're like, no, it's Michael J. Fox. I'm like, the guy from Footloose? I'm like, no, that's Kevin Bacon. The guy from Top Gun? And so I was like, okay, he didn't go back that far to change the 80s. What the hell happened? And Batman explains it's like, yeah, you go back in time, but your effects, you not only do you change the future, you change the past. And
Mm.
it's as vague as you could possibly be. It's like in Transformers when they said, we're from your past and your future, but they don't explain it very well. It's so vague, like, oh, the ripple goes both ways. And that's enough for me to go, okay, makes sense. Have fun with it.
Yeah. When they, and it's always they do this when it comes to time travel or multidimensional things. They did it in Interstellar. They did other ones where they just, like, they fold the paper,
Fold the paper and
put
poke a hole.
Yeah, so it's like, God damn it, they're going to do this
No,
again. It's like every time travel thing, you have to dumb it down for the
yeah,
dummies and go like, this would happen. But I will say, I think this is the best explanation
yeah.
of time travel and multidimensional stuff they've done. And I just love that how he used the dry sticks, sort of like this is how he branches off, and
Mm-hmm.
like you
You
said,
think
affects
it branches, but it actually
yeah,
becomes a crossroads.
yeah, and it, like you said, affects the past and the future, and then but then you put all the multiverses together, and it's a big plate of spaghetti, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's just like I thought it was a clever way
Yeah,
of doing that.
yeah.
So I mean,
Give it a point for that.
I will give it.
Went from an F to a D minus.
I'll give it a half point for that.
Okay.
Because I mean it's nothing like groundbreaking. It's not an amazing scene, but I just
But it's
appreciated it
original.
was original.
Yes. Yeah. So he goes back in time, saves his mom, and which we never get an answer to who actually killed.
That drove me fucking.
And I know the whole thing is it doesn't matter who killed
Sure.
him. Same with Batman's parents' murderer. It doesn't matter who killed him. It's
Yeah.
the fact that they died and
Doesn't have to be
set them
Joe
on this
Chill. Doesn't
journey.
have to be Jack Napier.
Yeah.
The point is, it was a criminal.
I think in the Flashpoint Paradox comic, I think it's his like Reverse Flash or something like that. Like he goes back and stabs his mom to make all this happen in the first place. It's one of those.
Hmm.
I mean, we do another sort of time loop paradox things later anyway, so probably adding that would it wouldn't work either since he's not going to kill his mom, the person he got to grow up with, just to get this all going. But one scene I did like is after they give younger Barry annoying Barry. God, okay. Two things I like. I like that they made older Ezra Miller look at his younger self and go, "Okay, I get it. I see why everybody hates me. I'm annoying as fuck, and I need to shut up." And so that was good. I'm glad they acknowledged it, but they kind of doubled down on how stupid this guy is. Like when he tells him to build a couch fort real quick, and he makes this really dumb laugh. Like, is this kid like 14? He's supposed to be in college, and he's an absolute moron. And so he got on my nerves, but there was enough serious Barry to balance it,
Yeah,
and so I really liked how they played off each other. And I think, say what you will about all the like terrible, terrible things that Ezra Miller has done, they're really good in this.
I agree.
I think Ezra,
I
Ezra
have
Miller
no
put in a performance.
I have no problem with his performance in this movie. So
So he gets Barry gets his power for the first time, and you get a little fun montage of him just like trying things out and running too fast and burning his clothes off and trying to phase and falling through the floor. I liked all that. What would happen if you got powers out of nowhere, and you would fuck it up because you don't learn, and it adds to, with his clothes burning off and gathering up too much power gives him another like extra move at the end. It's like little things that kind of showed up at the end, and a little setup and a little payoff, and it was a fun sequence of him just kind of running through the city and causing all these disasters.
sure, and I think I see what you're saying. How it's a fun origin story without it being an origin story because, like you said, you see how he gets his powers, but it's done
To someone else.
just to someone else, and you see him go through, the trouble. Oh, I did all this before. I can help you out of this jam. Uh, so it's like you're getting the origin story, but you're not stuck with here's an hour of the movie doing the origin, then here's another hour of the movie setting up the final battle. Then
Mm-hmm.
so you avoid that. But I'll say that it's weird that all the other DC heroes had their own movie, except for fucking Batman,
Mm-hmm.
which is weird.
Yeah.
Uh, but the Flash's thing is, well, I'm going to get my own movie, but it's also going to include everyone.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it's like I think all these movies needed separate.
They're standalones
They're
before. Yeah.
standalones, yeah. Because
Absolutely.
for me, this also feels like because when the DCEU started, it just from the get go was like, oh well, we're basically going to do one Man of Steel movie and then jump into the Avengers.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're just trying to copy Marvel, and it's like,
Or not necessarily copy. I
yeah,
wish they copied. They're trying to catch up.
yeah, they're trying to catch up. Sorry, and then it's like, okay, well now Spider-Man's doing No Way Home and across the across the Spider-Verse and uh, uh, Madness, Multiverse of Madness. It's like, fuck it, we're gonna do a multiverse thing. It's like, bro, they've been setting that up for a decade.
I mean, this movie has been in production for years. Now, I don't know if it has
Understood.
been the Flashpoint paradox thing that they've been wanting to do, but they announced this movie around the same time as the Flash TV show. And it ran its entire course and was done before this
Ran
movie
its
came up.
course.
Good one. Me.
Uh,
So I'm sure that multiverse thing has been there for a while, and they were going to do it with Justice League. If Zack Snyder got his way and got to make his movies, it was going to be about Flash going back and changing the death of Lois to change the outcome. So they would have been ahead of the game on multiverse stuff if they
Sure.
just would have taken their time with some of these things. And it's probably not a great idea to start your first Flash story being Flashpoint, because that's like his big and one only story that everybody kind of knows.
yeah.
But how do you start with Mirror Master or the Trickster? It's just it would be really fucking lame, but especially how fast and powerful this Flash is. I can't see them doing with Mirror Master what Spider Verse did with the Spot. I think it would be very similar type of fights, but
Yeah, I mean, now is Reverse Flash, he's got to be in a bunch of stuff, right?
yeah,
His first introduction wasn't Flashpoint
I don't
Paradox or
think
anything.
so.
Okay,
No,
yeah.
but there's
So
a million Flashes. There's old Flash, young Flash, kid Flash. There's so many. I
sure.
can't even keep
And
track of them.
we've talked about it on here before where we kind of hate the thing where the first hero movie is always the villain has the same powers,
Yeah,
but they're the bad version or
yeah.
whatever. Did it with Iron Man, did it with Ant Man, did it with
Mm-hmm.
all the good stuff.
Yep.
Uh, so seeing Flash fight the Reverse Flash would have been kind of like, well,
Here we go again.
here we go again. It's par for the course. That being said, it would make more sense than to just jump into this.
Yes. And we do get that. He does fight his other version at the end. His other version becomes corrupted in trying to fix this thing and keeps doing it so many times that he is creating this multiversal collapse. So he does technically fight his own self like everybody, but it's not them both running down the streets of New York exchanging punches and you get an aerial shot of red and yellow streaks going down the street like Tron cycles.
Yeah, but that's funny. I never thought of it that way. But I feel like that could have lent itself to some clever filmmaking and interesting bits of those two fighting, because the main villain of this movie is Zod for the majority of it. In
I
a
wouldn't say a
sense,
majority. I'd say a part of it. Yeah. But he's not really the villain of Flash. Flash is just having to stop it. He's more of the villain for Supergirl, but even she's in it so little that this is like you're popping into a story that you didn't start and you're not going to finish. You went in, tried to do your thing, and then you're out.
well, yeah, but I mean, okay, so once he goes back in time, within 20 minutes, Zod has landed. And Zod is the looming
Yeah,
threat throughout the movie until the
sure.
last 10 minutes
Yeah.
when it becomes, okay, well, it's actually Barry's future self who's lived for eternity or
Hmm.
whatever the fuck. Um, which, kudos to that guy for trying to fix things for 70 years or more, whatever it is. Uh,
I mean, trying and failing to fix things.
well, yeah, I just mean like after, try number, I don't know, 85, would probably be like, I'm just going to go fucking home,
Yeah. But that means you died and you let the other version of you, the one that made you, succeed and collapse your universe.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. So it's like, fuck, I gotta keep trying,
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
keep
yeah,
trying.
yeah. Okay, whatever.
But hey, if Tom Cruise in was it Live Die Repeat? No, I always fuck it up.
It's Edge of
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. He was able to figure out how to do it. Someone like the Flash, you should be able. In how many years it took him to get to that weird metal Megatron looking bullshit? What do you mean, Doug? You think he would have figured it out, especially being someone who's faster than the speed of sound. And like, okay, in that fight, he goes up and like does his phasing through one of the Kryptonians' chests and kills him. And like, you can't save everybody that way. Just start phasing people and start pulling hearts out as you go. Like, the Flash is such an overpowered
Well,
character. This should not have been a problem.
I don't necessarily know if he kills that Kryptonian. I
What did he do? Scramble his lungs and everything's fine?
Well, I don't know enough about Kryptonian anatomy and strength. And I'm saying like that could be a superhero thing where I'm gonna phase it and it's gonna be like a stunning effect. Like I'm gonna upset his.
He killed that fucker. He
May,
absolutely did.
okay,
I can't say like, oh, I went
but
in and I.
he said we can't kill them, not as in we can't, as in we shouldn't. He's like we physically cannot kill them, but we can slow them down.
Yes, sure.
So
But
my
then that
I
happened afterwards, and then he proved himself wrong. Oh, look, I can kill them. He just doesn't do it again.
okay.
But even if it doesn't kill him and it just takes that guy out of the fight, start doing that.
I guess that's my other problem with the Flash, and once again, this is someone who didn't read Flash comic books, doesn't know his villains and their power sets. Like a Reverse Flash makes sense because like I can meet you on the same playing field, but it just seems like the Flash, because of how fast he is, he just solves all problems.
Yeah.
It's the main reason why they wrote Quicksilver out of the X Men movies because
Yeah.
like if this guy's here, there wouldn't be a need for anyone else.
Yep.
So. Uh, why?
Yeah, no, I get that, and that I think was always the trouble of adapting Flash for the big screen is what do you do with this character? It's easier in comics to nerf someone. And like electricity is the great equalizer when it comes to comic book characters. It'll take out Batman, it'll take out Martian Manhunter, it will take out the Flash. If they just get shocked by something, it allows you to make them pass out. And so how do you do something like that for the big screen that isn't something silly like just, oh, he had a shocking glove or a shocking gun, and he's always working with electricity anyways. Justice League Unlimited lied to me. Everyone's always getting shocked, even including the Flash, but he's like literally works with electricity all the time. But anyhow, I don't know what I was making with that, but I just think this is a harder story to tell visually because he is so damn overpowered. So you have to either embrace it and figure out what to do with it, or you kind of have to nerf him. And then you can't do that because he's the Flash. He's the fastest man alive. He's faster than Superman. So if you just, oh, he could run at 300 miles an hour, that's not the Flash. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think their answer to that is, oh, we make him kind of dumb.
Okay.
He's not like clearly he's very smart because he works in the science lab and all that kind of stuff. But his personality makes him not a traditional superhero
Yeah.
in that sense. And at the beginning of this movie, he was essentially, I know I'm the janitor of the Justice League. Like you guys are fighting the big bads, and I'm just making sure the citizens are safe and running over here, fixing this thing, which would be a good essential job in the that makes you honestly probably the most important.
The goal is to save the people.
Yeah.
You're the one saving the people.
Like you are the defense of the group, or the support character, whatever, and that's fine and noble and everything. But it's also like, if anyone shows up, it's like, oh man, if only we could stab Zod with this kryptonite sword. Guess who could do that?
Yeah.
And nothing could stop him? The Flash. If the Flash can solve all your problems. And it's just absurd that I don't even know where I'm going with this. It's just I guess what the point is, if you're making a Flash movie, unless it's Reverse Flash, who the fuck can stop this guy?
Yeah.
There's no story to tell. But like I said, I don't know Flash lore, so I don't know if he's got tons of really cool villains that can totally negate those powers. But it just seems like, no.
No, it's what's the freeze guy? Captain Cold, Captain Boomerang, Mirror Master, and Trickster. Those are his four, and that's pretty
just normal people.
I mean, it's like, oh, I can travel through mirrors and reflections. That's pretty cool. The Trickster is just a weak Joker. Captain Boomerang is a guy with a boomerang.
Yeah, boomerang, yeah.
And then, you have a guy with an ice gun, which, sure, he always gets, he trips, gets his foot frozen to a block of ice and can't run. But when you introduce, he can phase out of things, an ice gun ain't shit.
Right. Okay, so anyway, what else did you like about this movie?
I like Michael Keaton, and I want to see more of Michael Keaton. But I wish they kind of saved this for a Batman Beyond. We've talked about before.
Yep.
If you're gonna continue the Tim Burton universe, and you can see with Forever and Robin and how Gotham has been changing, getting bigger buildings, more neon, it's looking a little more futuristic at times, the next step would be Batman Beyond. And so I think if they were ever to do that, bringing Michael Keaton back is not special anymore. Now you're going to have to maybe save Christian Bale for that role in 20 years. He's still too young for that.
I mean, I don't know if you have to wait 20 years, but
I guess you could make him up, but he's.
I think if you dyed his hair white, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, Christian Bale's not a young guy.
Yeah, for sure. And
he
needs to be an old guy.
Yeah, but I think you would kind of want him on the younger side, but play him older, because he can still be in somewhat shape.
Do some action scenes,
Do some action scenes, yeah.
Okay, so
you don't want to get Harrison Ford to be like, yeah, that's Batman. You'd be like, how? His dog is going to trip him and he's going to fall down the stairs and die.
You do the same thing they're doing with Dial of Destiny. It's all digital face replacements, things like that. Yeah. So it's a shame. I think we will have to wait for James Gunn to do Batman Beyond in a decade or so. He'll have to really get out all of his other things first before we even tackle that. So it was a little disappointing. It would have been fun to see alternate versions of maybe some of the other superheroes. You get like say Adrian Palicki to be Wonder Woman since she played Wonder Woman in the TV show and she just happens to
The
be
TV show that never aired.
yeah, well, I mean, they put fucking Nicolas Cage Superman fighting a
We'll talk. I
Thanagarian
can't wait
snare
to talk to
beast.
you about that.
So, like, if they were gonna do these sort of like big things, we got a different Superman with Kara, we got a different Batman with Michael Keaton. It would have been kind of interesting if we got say you do Aquaman, but you get Patrick Wilson to be Aquaman. Like you flip the two actors, and then Jason Momoa is Ocean Master or something.
Okay.
You do little things like that. That would have been fun, but we're already pretty overstuffed anyways, and Supergirl doesn't even like get much to shine. She is just there to punch things real hard. But I liked her. I like a blonde Supergirl. I think that's more of her classic look, but I'm okay with the dark hair. But I thought she, for an actress who doesn't have a very big IMDb, I'm like good for her that she got to do this role. But I'm sorry that she got to do this role that's not going to go anywhere ever. And the universe has collapsed. The universe that her character exists in is pretty much collapsed. So hopefully she finds something else in her career. Otherwise, it's going to be Comic Cons forever. Of I'm Kara from the Flash movie. Who wants a signature?
All right, so let's talk about some other characters here.
Okay.
Stretch it out. Okay. Keaton.
Yeah.
Keaton is a Batman icon.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I think he is, I guess, the best part of this movie. Him fighting those dudes in Russia was
Yeah.
pretty fun. I liked the Batwing, how he was always stationary, but the Batwing could like spin around
Yeah,
him. I
that
was like,
was cool.
that was super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really liked that.
It would suck if you have to like if it got stuck in that halfway position and you're trying to eject and you're like, you're just stuck with the wing.
Yeah. It was great seeing his Batcave,
Mm-hmm.
and I like that he died, like legit died,
Mm-hmm.
which just felt like I'll do this movie and you're gonna pay me a ton of money, but make sure I die in this because I'm not.
I'm not doing it
this again.
again. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Before we go on, remember that thought. Think of it. What you want to say. Because we always forget what we want to say when someone derails the other person. When they were in the kitchen and he's explaining the spaghetti stuff,
mm,
I think that's the same kitchen in what's the second house on Haunted Hill House?
Hill House,
Yeah, Haunting of Hill House. The Bly Manor?
Bly
Haunting of
Manor.
Bly
Yeah.
Manor. I think it's the kitchen, the same exact kitchen. It looks exactly the same.
We'll look it up.
Anyhow.
And I and I just love Danny Elfman's score. The
Oh, yeah.
the Batman
Uh-huh.
score, one of the greatest pieces of music.
Yep.
It just fits so well. Like I enjoyed hearing that more than anything else.
They did the same thing in Justice League. We got to hear a little Superman sting and a little
Sure, yeah.
Batman sting.
So Keaton being in this is fun,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, but ultimately, whatever. And it plays more at the end when we have. We're just gonna jump straight to the end tag. So we have all these multiverses, and Barry saves the day, and we're back. He's back in his original homeworld, and he's on the phone with Bruce, and Bruce is like, "All right, kid, I'm pulling up." And who steps out? George Clooney,
Yep.
the most popular Batman of all time, and. So it leads to a funny. I liked his delivery of "Who the fuck is this guy?"
Yeah.
That joke worked for me.
Mm-hmm. A lot of cussing in this. There's a lot of shits and like him saying I need to shit outside. I thought that was a pretty fun. Naked ass. Like this is a little more adult.
Yeah.
But George Clooney.
But George Clooney, yeah. So him popping in, I was like, who fucking cares?
It's for the fans.
This scene feels to me like they realize, the deal's done. Just like DC's going over to James Gunn or whatever. This might be the end. It's like, fuck it. We're throwing everything at the wall. We're just gonna. This feels like it was put together at the last minute, and they're just like, hey George, here's 5 million, show up for a day,
Yeah.
and tease a thing that'll never come to fruition. And
I I
maybe
think
it
that's
will,
exactly
but it
it.
just feels like if there's any shot of us doing another one of these, we're bringing in Clooney just to build up hype. It's like, oh, what does this mean for the DCU? Whatever, blah blah blah. It's like, is Clooney going to be the next one? Blah. Like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
It's like it it works for Spider-Man: No Way Home
Mhm.
because we like those Spider-Men.
Sure.
They
Yeah.
whether you think that the Amazing Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield movies were good,
You like him.
but you like him.
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire, that's the first Spider-Man, childhood hero to a lot of
Yeah.
kids. And then Tom Holland is just the new now. He
Mhm.
works for seemingly everybody.
Yeah.
That works. But bringing in Clooney, I understand you can't bring in Kilmer,
Yeah.
but
It could have been Bale.
I think Bale, and I like, you say whatever you want about like stuck up artists.
Hmm.
I think Bale realized I'm too good for this.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. It's like I'll do a Nolan film because Nolan
Sure.
makes good shit.
Yeah.
But why would the fuck would I care
And
about
after
this?
Thor, I mean, like, okay, I tried to come back to the comic book things. Fuck y'all.
But like, at least Gore the God Butcher is
A character.
a good villain. I
Yeah.
mean, at least on paper.
Yeah.
How he's executed, that's a whole other story.
Mhm.
But there's something that he could have, sunk his teeth into.
Yeah.
We're just coming in for a cameo. It's
Mhm.
not something I see Bale doing.
Yeah. And with the smugness that Clooney is giving at that point, if Christian Bale was doing it, I would go, why is Patrick Bateman in this movie? This is now part of the American Psycho universe?
Yeah. So that whole
But
bit did absolutely nothing for me.
I heard a rumor that this was going to be a thing, but I heard it was going to be a thing in Aquaman. Like Bruce Wayne was going to show up and it was going to be Clooney and it would be this big, like, confusing sting because Aquaman didn't know that the Flash had changed the timeline or something.
Yeah.
So seeing it in this, I kind of expected it, but I think it was a pleasant surprise. I thought it was quite funny, but it doesn't make any sense
No.
because he is the same. He is Michael Keaton. That is the same Batman from Tim Burton's one. It's just recast. Everything that from the Joker to the Penguin to the Riddler and Two-Face to Bane and Poison Ivy, that's supposed to be the same Batman. So for him to show up,
They all had the same Alfred.
yeah, they all have the
Yeah.
same Alfred, same Commissioner Gordon. So it makes even less sense. I guess you could say multiverse, anything could happen.
Sure.
This is yeah. But for the fans, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I loved it. I love that cameo. And I know they originally had it was going to be just Michael Keaton gets out and Supergirl is there. But like I think that doesn't quite make any sense. I know they teased Supergirl in Man of Steel, like there was another pod and yada yada, and that was something maybe they were going to do eventually.
Mhm.
But I don't think it works unless Superman is dead. So I'm glad they changed it because it's just I think it's not that any of it is really confusing, but it's less confusing because it is a joke. And if you go, well, why the fuck is Supergirl here? That just because he moved the can of tomatoes, it would change enough that she exists in this world, and maybe she did land forever ago and was captured, and she was just still in that Russian gulag at the time. I don't know. I don't know. But I like this ending.
I mean, I have a movie pitch for you.
Okay.
For what I would have done with Flash, at least if this is sort of the story we're going to go with.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get to it in a bit. So
Okay.
the Clooney thing, didn't care about who gets, because it'd be different if I knew there was more coming, but because
Okay.
I don't, it just feels like
Could you buy Clooney in Batman Beyond? Would you be okay with that if he was old man Bruce Wayne? I think you'd really have to play up the makeup on that one.
I don't think so. It's not necessarily because it's about look or whatever. I just don't think Clooney strikes me as the type who doesn't have an interest in this. Like
Yeah.
when Clooney took Batman, he was like, I believe, fresh off of ER.
Yeah,
Like
he was the new hotness.
Yeah, he was a star on the
He was
rise.
a Tom Holland at the time.
Yeah, so he was, the handsome dude who's rising in Hollywood. We'll make him Batman. It's a
Yeah.
big budget thing.
You
Tons of
don't-
money for him.
You don't pass on Batman. That's an opportunity that's great.
So we're now it's so long past that Batman just strikes me as a character he doesn't give a shit about, and Clooney is also so big. It just seems like it would be a distraction that he's there. Like,
Mm.
not that he's too good to be Batman, but just why the fuck does Clooney? I know, like, I believe Clooney wants to direct movies and star in like Oscar shit. Like him doing Batman just seems like, oh, he's here for the paycheck, not because he cares about the work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So I just don't know if I would buy him in the movie. Like that would be a really hard sell. Like he'd have to really do some heavy campaigning, go like, well, it's this take, and maybe if he's directing it, maybe. Uh,
Oh, that'd be interesting.
but I just don't see it. Anywho,
Let's talk about the other cameos then.
yeah. So, oh god, this movie exhausts me. All right, so the big finale is he's fighting himself, and he's in the Speed Force, and he's seeing all these worlds of
Different Batman, different Superman, different Flashes.
different versions of here that he can see for whatever
Yeah.
reason. Which, well, one, let me talk about the Speed Force in itself. I think visually it's a cool idea to sort of
Mhm.
have this
It's like a wave
a
kaleidoscope.
way. Yes, thank you. I was trying to think of a way to describe it. I think that's a fun look on how you do
Hmm.
time travel and how you see things like in motion. It's a fun idea. CGI's bad though.
Oh God, yeah.
It like this movie feels like if this came out at the same time as Spider-Man 2002 with Tobey
Hmm.
Maguire, like this movie would have been fucking huge.
Sure.
And I think it would have worked really well. This movie feels like it's 20 years too late.
Okay.
But anyway,
There's no way we could have done most of the things
oh no,
in
I
this.
agree. It just because of the CGI and because of sort of like some of the silliness in this, it's like it just feels like an older movie that they're
Hmm.
doing now. But yeah, I think visually it's like we've seen different versions of multiverses in three different movies in the past year,
Yeah.
and they're all have their own kind of cool, unique style. I like the idea of this, but I don't think it's done effectively. But yeah, so we see the Speed Force, we see these worlds where we just happen to see different versions of, like you said, Superman, Batman, and even the Flash. The Flash stuff. Why would we fucking care? Because we've never seen any of those other versions of the Flash
Yeah.
in this in this world.
They didn't even show TV Flash, did they?
Yeah, like if Grant Gustin showed up,
Yeah.
cool. I mean, he's the closest thing we have to the Flash, other than Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
Because we have like the 1950s version or whatever. It's
Hmm.
like, well,
But
that's that only comic book nerds are really going to know that one. And then we have cameos of Christopher Reeves,
Reeve,
Reeve, yeah.
singular.
Um,
George Reeves was the original Superman.
Gotcha. And we saw him as well briefly too, I believe, because
I
they
don't
had
know.
like a black and white.
Yeah,
Sort
they
of
had a black and white Batman,
yeah.
black and white Flash. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like I was listening to another podcast talk about it, and it was just like, man, I know it's gonna sound lame, but seeing Christopher Reeve, like that man was, my hero as a kid,
Hmm.
and just seeing him like
Great
fly
Superman.
again, it just like really got me emotionally. And I was just like, this looks bad,
Yeah.
and I, obviously I didn't grow up on Christopher Reeve. It was a little bit
Mm.
before my time, but I'm aware of his influence and how popular the Superman movies was. But like him just standing there looking off into the distance did nothing for me.
Yeah.
It's just like you're just throwing in superheroes to try and like tie in more cameos. It's like
Hmm.
what is this adding to the film itself other than like, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
And then
It is a look at that moment.
yeah. And you had Adam West. It's like it'd be great if this movie was about legacy and that kind of thing and the importance of heroes in the universe, and it doesn't matter
Hmm.
what universe you're in. It's like heroes matter. If
Yeah.
any of that was sort of like played
Sure.
up, that would make more sense.
Yeah.
And then we could see these icons, or like if they all just kind of came in, it's like, oh, Barry, you need more electricity, you need to charge up, and then you just see them all like put their hands on his back and they're like, we got you, kid. I know it doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you play something up like that, and you could do something interesting. And then we have the Nicolas Cage Superman cameo
Yeah.
where he fights a giant spider, which
It's a Thanagarian snare beast. Excuse me. Kevin Smith has specifically said what it is.
okay, well I've lived. So here's the thing: there's gonna be so many people who are like, "What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Why is Nicolas Cage
Yeah.
Superman?" And there's deep lore that you and I are aware of. This
Mhm.
this was another thing. Like, oh, this is just for super comic book movie nerds,
Whole sequences.
which is fine, but it's just going to leave everyone else confused. It's like,
Mm-hmm. Fuck them. It's not for them.
but
Be confused. Get out of our fucking movie, guy.
I was telling my wife about this. I was like, "Do you know about the Nicolas Cage thing?" And she was like, "No." It's like, "Well, let me tell you about Kevin Smith's story about why Superman was going to fight a giant spider because some crazy producer just like was in love with giant
Yep.
spiders, and that's why we had fucking Wild Wild West
Mm-hmm.
make a giant mechanical spider
Yep.
because he was the same producer on that movie." It's like, and that movie turned out great, and
He made a lot of money.
sure, and it's just like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Like all of it was just look at me, look at me, look at me, as opposed of like what is this adding to the movie? And I don't think it adds anything.
No.
It's all just isn't this cool, guys? Isn't this worth like coming back and spending money? And
I think it's just one of those superhero super deep cuts that we haven't gotten a chance to reference it in anything else, and they just saw an opportunity and took it.
Now if here's my other pitch for that scene where you could do the Nicolas Cage thing, but you know how Barry, is running through time and he pokes his head out and it's like, oh, like this is a universe I can travel. It's like, what if he did that and he just jumped to a different universe and he pokes his head out and he's looking around and then you just see Nicolas Cage, like Nicolas Cage live action
Mm-hmm.
in costume. You can digitally gauge him a little bit,
Sure.
but he's fucking there.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, hey kid, that's weird. And then he just flies away and punches a giant spider.
Sure.
And then you just play it for a laugh. You can do that, but him just being there fighting this spider and turning around, going,
Huh. Yeah, it's played for a real emotional.
Yeah.
Like, look you're going to destroy all these universes. These ones that don't actually exist or you don't even care about. But yeah, maybe playing it for laughs would have been better than playing it for emotion.
Yeah, like the Christopher Reeve one that makes sense for emotional.
Mm-hmm.
The Nicolas Cage one doesn't make any goddamn sense.
No. But when I saw that spider, I went, oh, like I knew it was coming. I just had a feeling. And like I stood up and clapped. I was one of the, no, I didn't actually, but my heart did. You're right on all of it. It's kind of stupid. It doesn't make any sense, but I love seeing it. And that was pretty much everything in this movie was who cares if this works or not, knowing that they are unmaking all of it, throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. I loved it.
And I guess you could sort of accumulate it as like, oh, well, the movie is, whether they did this intentionally or not, it's the spaghetti analogy.
Yeah.
It's all just a jumbled mess, and we can just throw whatever, and it's just this movie is a giant pile of spaghetti with some Parmesan sprinkled on top.
Yep.
It's just a mess of pile of whatever, and great if you enjoyed spaghetti. Great. I'm glad you enjoy spaghetti.
Mm-hmm.
Most people do.
But you're avoiding carbs.
Yeah, but I'm looking for more of a meal with some substance.
Yeah, you want your steak. You're not one of these.
Yeah. And this movie just wasn't it. And like I said, the positives are, I think, Ezra Miller. They are very good. I think there are a couple jokes that work, quite a few that don't. And Keaton back to school. Supergirl, we didn't talk about her too much.
Yeah.
She was fine. I think she was good for what she had to do, but she didn't really have much to do. She was barely in it, and she wasn't really a character. She was just, I'm angry, kill Zod.
Yeah.
And that was it. Would I be happy to see her do more DC stuff?
Yeah.
Sure. I'll see that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to.
Nah.
At least most likely. And so that character was nothing. I don't know if I have anything else really to say other than it was just you know what scene worked for me? The one scene I thought was effective was him saying goodbye to his mom.
Oh yeah.
I thought that scene,
the mom really carried all the emotion in this movie.
Yeah, I thought that stuff worked. And I was just gonna say that I wish there was a little bit more with the dad. And their relationship, and I know he was in prison and it's not important, but I just wanted to see that connection a little bit more of like why it's so important. It's like obviously his dad is innocent, but also we have Barry. He can go back in time and he's interacted with all these things and changed whatever. It's like, but he can't go back and just see who did it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like
yeah. Instead of trying to like prove your dad innocent, prove the actual killer. Go back and see who it is. Use that to build a case. And then you don't need to change the tomato sauce on the shelf to make your dad look up, which is enough to turn you into George Clooney. That's a lesson. Don't touch the tomatoes. Don't reshelve the tomato sauce, or you'll become George Clooney.
I wonder what the tomato sauce sales will be after this movie comes out. Because now the shawarma just shot up after the
Yeah,
Avengers.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I think
yeah. Maybe.
cans of tomatoes are going to be just flying off the shelf. Do you have anything else to say about this movie?
I don't think so.
Oh, did Michael Shannon step on set at any fucking point in the
No,
shoot?
I don't think so.
I think he did this entire movie from his house on like
Yep.
a Zoom green screen,
Yeah.
and he just did facial reactions,
Absolutely. And then they
which is
just
a that's absurd.
yeah.
I mean, I get it, but I mean, Jesus fucking Christ.
That's a gig. Yeah, and it's funny. Whereas in All of Man of Steel, he spent like 6 months of training to get fit and yada yada. I mean, he's wearing a fucking big old black suit the whole time. You can't tell how fit he actually is. And then just years later, we just digitally put his face on a digital body or a
Mhm.
stunt man. Yeah, it's fine. But no, he was not on set at all. I would bet. I don't know.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I think I'm out of things to say. I'm sure there's other stuff I could
Sure.
nitpick, but yeah, I just don't. I don't like this movie. I don't think it is as good as people make it out to be. I'm glad they enjoy it, but they're wrong.
I think they're walking it back a bit. A lot of people in Hollywood were saying this is the great. Like Tom Cruise said it was the best superhero movie that ever existed. I'm sure that's more of a
I'm guessing the head of Scientology was a producer on this film and told him to say it.
or went, hey, that Ezra Miller, we could reach out and help him. He's got money. Let's have him join our cult. We'll talk up his movie. Try to smooth over some of his legal problems, and then he'll be talking about e-meters and thetans and stuff.
Like,
But like I still say this is better than Ant Man.
I would argue that Ant Man is a more cohesive movie, but I I'm fine with saying it's more entertaining.
Yeah,
Sure, I wasn't bored.
yeah.
Uh, I just didn't think it was good.
Hmm.
So was I entertained? Enough. Uh, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's a good movie.
Okay. Well, what's next week?
Uh,
I think,
oh, I can maybe try and finish Black Mirror because I mean I only get like an hour a day to myself
and there's only
anymore.
5 episodes,
Yeah, so
so
we can shoot for Black Mirror. The
okay.
other thing was
Isn't that Jennifer Lawrence sex comedy? Isn't that?
I do want to see that. I think that
Yeah.
does look funny.
And then I think maybe the wide release of Asteroid City.
We'll see.
Yeah. So
Um,
TBD.
yeah.
Like
Oh,
anything. Like
so
any
can I give you
episode.
my
Oh
Flash
yeah, you
pitch
wanted to
movie?
pitch. Yeah.
Now I've spent next to no time thinking about this, so I might start and go like, you know what, this is fucking dumb. So, so you have Barry, and he has his dad in prison. His mom is dead, and he knew from the get go that his dad was innocent. And this is someone who, once again, doesn't know Flash lore.
Hmm.
What if his mom dies? He finds his dad, the knife, and he's holding it in her chest because he's doesn't know if in his the look of it, it's like, is he stabbing her or is he like not sure what
Yeah.
to do with it? And Barry thinks, oh, my dad couldn't have killed my mom, but
Hmm.
then all the evidence points that he did do it. It's like, you know what? And Barry believes, you know what? I think my dad did do it.
Okay.
Maybe they were having an argument at the time or whatever it was. So Barry believes his dad is a murderer and a criminal, and that leads to him becoming a hero after getting his powers, whatever. And so Barry never had a real father figure growing up. And so he looks for it in Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne. Doesn't quite get it because Ben Affleck is ideally you'd have him a bit younger than he is now because Ben Affleck is an older. But or maybe Ben Affleck's just like, look, man, I've had my Robins. They're all kind of fucked up. I'm not. I'm not a good dad. I'm not the guy you're looking for, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so Barry's just struggling with like looking up for male adult role models. And he's like, well, I'm going to go back in time and save my mom. And then none of this will happen. At least I'll have my mom, even if my dad is a piece of shit or whatever. Um, Goes back in time, Flashpoint paradox. We can still do that storyline. Runs into Michael Keaton, and Michael Keaton can be that father figure to Barry and kind of teaches him how to be his own hero. Because maybe in this version, yeah, Barry's the janitor of the Justice League. He doesn't feel like a hero because how can he stack up to Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, like the legends? Everyone's kind of like, oh yeah, the guy that can run fast, real cool dude. Whatever. He just kind of seems like a joke, and so he's always the joke guy. But now that Michael Keaton is the old Batman, he's had his time. This is him sort of not necessarily like I can I can help this kid in ways like I couldn't help the Robins because the Robins were like humans. Like this kid, he's got powers. He can be his own hero, and he won't fall into the same trappings. And so you just kind of have it's a story about fathers and relationships, and then you know fixing. He still has to fix the multiverse and realizes, oh, my dad didn't do it. It was the Reverse Flash or whatever
Mm-hmm.
villain you want to do for whatever reason. But basically, it's just like there's a so you have Keaton have more juice to him and be this. You can still have him be this cool Batman who does badass stuff, but be a more caring, loving man because he has aged. He is a character. He has learned from his mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Gotham is saved, and he doesn't need him anymore. And so, like, this is Batman's sort of last act is helping Barry fix the thing and send him back and to his own world. And you just kind of have that thing, and then Barry can reconcile with his father at the end. And it's like, well, now I'm on a new path to either get my dad out of jail or like I've gotten my dad out of jail and now we can build a relationship again. And it's all because of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll that Batman Michael Keaton Batman can die or just they reset the timeline so that it's like they never meet. And so it's very sad when he says goodbye. It's like, hey kid, you know, you're you're pretty nuts or
Yeah,
whatever.
like, hey, we never went and got those nuts. I asked if he wanted to get nuts, and we never did. Next time.
Let's get nuts and or whatever. What's real quick that line delivery? It's so dumb. I roll. I get it's like it's so weird that "Let's get nuts" is
Yeah.
a Batman line.
Yeah, it's better in the original movie because he is going nuts in
Yeah,
that scene.
no, it works in that movie. I'm
But
just saying, like
of all the things,
of all the
yeah.
things, it's like
He just
weird that there's no like Batman catchphrase really, but
besides, I'm Batman.
yeah, I am vengeance. I am the night. I'm
Yeah.
Batman, and then let's get
Let's get
nuts.
nuts. Yeah.
Is so weird.
But I will credit Michael Keaton. I feel like he slipped back into Batman like it was nothing. Like
Oh
this
yeah,
was
sure.
this. He's an excellent actor that he can pull this thing from 30 fucking years ago and just be like, yeah, yeah, I got it again. But
Oh,
anyhow, go on.
but I'm glad we're talking about that because you can still do the Flashpoint paradox where it's the version where Atlantis is at war with
Yeah, that's how you
the
write it out.
Amazonians because that's a really cool idea. And you have and speaking of fathers and mentors and stuff in this world, maybe I guess you can't really do it because Bruce is dead, but it's like oh here's a version of where Thomas Wayne is now Batman.
Yeah.
It's like oh well that's a father figure he can run into kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And it's like my son died. Yada yada. Like there's different avenues you could take where
You,
it's like you're changing the Flashpoint paradox story,
mm-hmm.
but also giving Barry and Batman more to do than just be like we got to save a thing.
Yeah.
It's like now there's a connection that there's a relationship they're building that will
Mm-hmm.
carry over to uh, Barry going back to his world to help his father and his father's relationship with them and all the time lost. It's like oh and that's another thing you can do with time. It's like I've lost so much time with my dad because I spent so much time hating him, and I wish I could go back in time. It's like, well, yeah, you lost that time. That doesn't mean you're losing the time in the future.
Mm-hmm.
That like you do. There's
Sure.
so many character things you can do, but there's
Yeah.
no fucking character work here other than I miss my mom. That's the whole character arc, and then he doesn't save his mom, which he shouldn't, and I'm glad that
Yeah.
they don't, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just wish Keaton had more to do other than just be like, "Isn't it cool I'm here, guys? Beetlejuice too, right? Jenna Ortega's gonna be in it. You like Wednesday, right? That's my Beetlejuice impression.
That's pretty
Sorry.
good,
Thank
actually.
you.
I do think it would have probably helped to use the pre-existing things that we have already established. We've done Wonder Woman and Aquaman. Doing an alternate take where they get married and murder each other is really cool because people just he's maybe grumpy but he's still our cool Aquaman and everybody loves Wonder Woman. Having them be these like bloodthirsty armies at each other, excellent, and that can be the big inciting event that isn't Zod.
Yeah.
And then we've already had um, from Walking Dead both Negan and Maggie. I can't remember their names right now. Uh, they played Thomas and Martha Wayne in uh, Batman v Superman. Negan from Walking Dead. What's his fucking name?
Jeffrey Dean.
Jeffrey D. Morgan as Thomas Wayne, evil Batman. That's awesome. And then I could totally see Maggie from Walking Dead being the Joker. That could have been a fun timeline he got into, realizes this isn't what he wanted to do, tries to fix something else, and then meets Michael Keaton. And if you have Michael Keaton Batman, old elderly Batman who's been successful at what he does, meeting his father from a different universe who took it to the exact extreme, that would be a really fun meeting if you had to do it. But I would say you cut out Michael Keaton and you just do the Flashpoint because we already have these actors and characters set up. Just fucking do that.
I'm just saying, if you're going to keep Keaton, that's just that's an idea I had. But it's like, if your idea is to bring in Wonder Woman for a day, like they did in this movie, or I didn't stick around for the end credit sequence or whatever.
Oh, it was nothing. It was the worst thing ever.
I went on Wikipedia. It's like, oh, they just talked about the events. With,
and he's
Aquaman.
drunk. And he falls in a pool. I thought it was going somewhere.
You can have Momoa and Godot, whatever, on set for a day, and you just have them digitally. Oh, they're running at each other in this big battle. Like, whatever.
You would have to have a little montage of them getting married, him with Mira, her finding out, them killing each other, and then you would just use Ocean Master as like, she killed my brother, our king.
I'm just saying it would have cost you the same amount of money, more or less, to just have them on set for one day, and you would have a way more interesting battle scene that we've seen. Unless your idea is, well, we're saving it for later.
But we're already doing Flashpoint. Don't save it.
Yeah, you can't save it now because you did Flashpoint.
And how many times do we need to go back to that Man of Steel invasion, destruction of Metropolis? Because we go back to even the beginning when Barry did live through that in his little Spider-Man homemade outfit to save that one kid, which he says, like, that's all I was able to do was save that one kid. And then when he's having the battle as a grown-up, they show that kid and father again, and I thought the kid was gonna die, and that would be another thing weighing on his head, like, I can't do it all.
That seems like something that they cut around.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, why even bother showing them again if you're not going to have him save the kid again or have a different outcome? Don't even bother cutting back to those people. Very strange.
Yeah, because there was even a thing where it's like we were ending. I pitched a movie and now we're back. But where Supergirl kind of beats Zod, takes his arm, and like stops the world engine. And you think it would cut back, and maybe it did. I'm forgetting, but it would cut back to the world engine. And right before that thing picks up his dad or whatever, it stops, and it's like, oh look, they're both saved, or whatever, or maybe, or at least the kid is just saved. But they never cut back to that kid, so it just seems like that was a scene where, oh, I'm remembering, I gotta save that kid. It was the one it was something, but they do nothing with that, and it's so weird. Weird editing choice. But here we are. So
next week, TBD.
So James Gunn, if you want us to actually fix your the DC universe, he's like, give us a call.
I think I got this, guys. I made Guardians. I turned a D- level characters.
I made Rainn Wilson a fucking superhero. Man. Remember Super?
Yeah. I was trying to think of a Slither thing. I'm like, I made a real fat bug infested girl. But
I keep putting Nathan Fillion in things.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I wonder who he'll be in the DCEU. Anywho, well, to be determined. Probably Black Mirror. You got a week to do this. That'll be good. But I'm also going out of town at the end of the month, so there will be a gap where Steve doesn't have to watch something. Doesn't have to suffer through something just to appease me.
I guess I'll just spend time with my child.
So we'll come back and we'll probably have a big old episode of catching up, and then it'll be about time for our year anniversary, our second year anniversary media bracket breakdown, and see what is the best thing we talked in year 2 of our podcast. So things to look forward to. So if you want to get in contact with us, we are at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com or on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
And keep consuming.
Ben, he put a baby in a microwave.